Well, welcome back, everyone. It's lights, camera, action, and you know it's Make Our World Your Runway. This is the weekly show that interviews the most fascinating individuals from the world of modeling, fashion, beauty, business, and even the entertainment industry. But before we get started, we do want to thank all the sponsors that have made this possible, which is Lasky Architect, the Lux Salon, Margaritaville at Sea, 100 Successful Women in Business, Transmedia PR, Global Trade Chamber, and also Tina Vida Designs. And as always, we have a very exciting show that is planned for you today. But before we do that, we always like to make a few special announcements. And we want to tell all our viewers out there to remember to subscribe to the Global Trade Chamber YouTube channel so that you can see all the shows from Make Our World Your Runway and Success Stories. And I highly recommend our viewers to tune into Success Stories because the show features the most amazing women in the world of business and community service. From humble beginnings to successful entrepreneurs, these women will totally inspire you. And get ready for some exciting conferences, speakers, and awards as 100 Successful Women in Business and the Global Trade Chamber are going to come to a city near you. Now, next week, June the 30th, we are going to be in Tampa, Florida. It's going to be a great and exciting event. We have some wonderful speakers that are scheduled there. And guess what? Make Your World Your Runway is going to be there, and we're going to be doing a live show. This is one event if you are in the area or anywhere, and it's very close to the airport so you can get in and out. I highly suggest you sign up today. Go to the website at www.100swb for all the details. There you can sign up, and if you're a speaker, you may want to be a speaker at the event. And I highly recommend anybody that attends these events to definitely go in and listen to the speakers. They have a lot of great information that can promote your business. So once again, June the 30th, in Tampa, Florida, one event you do not want to miss. And we have something very exciting because we're calling all successful women in business because it's time to shine a light on your achievements. Nominate yourself or a colleague for a chance to be honored at our special awards dinner gala in Las Vegas, October 23rd to the 26th. Let's come together to honor the impactful work of women in business and community service. Remember to claim the well-deserved award. You need to be present in Las Vegas at the awards dinner gala to receive this award. Nominate yourself or a colleague for the 2024 reception award ceremony. There will also be networking, conferences, business expo, fashion show, and of course, once again, Make Our World Your Runway will be going live. So for all the information on this and all the cities that will be coming to, remember to go to the website at www.100swb.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we want to get on to our show. We have really an exceptional and exciting guest today. And once again, I have something in common with a guest, okay? Now, she is a trailblazing female music producer and songwriter. She's known for her diverse genre of compositions within the realm of popular music. From her early days in Coral Springs, Florida, to her creative ascent in Newtown, Connecticut, her journey is a testament to her relentless drive and rich musical lineage, tracking back to her aunt, the late film and television actress Corinne Camacho. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome my guest today, Ms. Zoey Tess. Zoey, welcome to Make Our World Your Runway.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a great pleasure. And you and I definitely have something in common. I mean, I love this. The last 2 weeks, I've had something in common with my guest. You are a singer-songwriter. I'm not a songwriter, but I'm definitely a singer. Okay? Yeah. I was opera trained, 10 years opera trained. I performed in Phantom of the Opera. I've performed in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and Holland America Cruise Lines. So
That's incredible. And I heard that you went to Juilliard, which is, I mean, that's just incredible in and of itself. I studied voice with a man named Marco Lampus from Manhattan. Yep, him and his wife Barbara. They both are graduates of the Juilliard School. So it's when Adrian told me that, I thought that was so cool, and what a connection.
It is. And when I went to the Juilliard, it was basically just vocal music, a little bit of instrumental, but now it's a full blown college. I mean, you could study dance. I mean, you could study theater. It's everything now. Yeah, of course, taking academic courses because now, like I say, it really is a full blown college. But what was funny about the Juilliard and how I got there, um, I was born and raised in Hackensack, New Jersey, Bergen County. And Hackensack High School, we had a great a cappella choir. It was unbelievable. And what I didn't know that there were people sitting out in the audience from the Reader's Digest. And part of that was to go on a European tour. So I went out there and did my thing, did my solo, didn't know. And then after the show was over, I had people from the Reader's Digest come back and they're talking to the conductor and they said, "She's it." I said, "Me?" I said, "What did I do?" And they said, "She's the one we want for the European tour, but we want to offer her a scholarship to the Juilliard Academy of Music." I was like,
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's incredible. That's so,
yeah, it really was an incredible time. And just, I mean, it was very intense, I have to say. When you're studying opera and you're doing a lot of arias, it's very, very intense. But you know what? It helped me out with a lot of different things, okay? It also taught me a stage presence. And then many years later, in New York City, when I was working in the cosmetic industry, I studied with a woman by the name of Allison Starr, who was very much involved with stage and screen, and she was with the rap agency. So she also was an opera singer. So I was like, I got a double whammy between the
wow.
Juilliard and that.
It's like we're all creatives in a lot of ways. So I think a lot of those, talents and those things that we learn can be used in so many different ways. And you kind of, this world is so small that you bump into people all the time. And I find that artists gravitate towards each other. So, you just have these just random encounters with people that are people might say it's fate or destiny, but I think it's the universe just brings us artists together. It's an energy.
It is. It absolutely. And you never know where you're going to meet someone. Um, I'll give you an idea. I had gone for a Disney audition, and I read the requirements, and I said, okay, this is great. So I went there that day, and they said any song you want to sing, as long as you do like 16 bars, that's all they want to hear, just to get an idea of the kind of voice you have. And I did that, and the gentleman that was sitting there, okay, the producer, he said, "You have the most gorgeous voice," he says, "I have heard." He said, "But you're not what I'm looking for." And I'm scratching my head saying, "Not what you're looking for." Okay, I read all the
The
requirements.
worst.
Exactly. But there was a gentleman that came up behind me, and I listened to his audition, and he played a guitar. He didn't have the greatest voice, but he was somebody that they could use in the park to entertain children. But that was never said. But because when you go on an audition, you never know what they're looking for.
You never know.
Okay. So I came out of there and I said, "That's it. I'm going home." All right. Friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, said to me, "Guess what?" He said, "They're looking for understudies for Phantom of the Opera." I said, "Forget it." I said, "I'm going home. Day's over." He said, "Angela, go." He said, "I got a very good feeling," he said, "about this." I said, "Okay." So I went over there, did 16 bars of All I Ask of You, and they said, "Okay, great. We'll get with you."
One of my favorite songs.
Oh, that's a beautiful song. By the time I got home, they were calling me, and I became one of the understudies. And then when Sarah Brighton decided that she had had enough of Phantom of the Opera, she didn't want to do the East Coast tour because she had done it in London, England. She had done it in New York. And, when you do
Sure.
2 shows a day, matinees, and then on the weekends, it's exhausting.
It's a lot of work.
It is. It's a lot of work. And a lot of the other understudies did not want to do the East Coast tour. I said, okay. I jumped at it. It was probably one of the most rewarding things I had ever done because
Amazing.
I would work sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday through Sunday. And I always made the joke.
That's like the perfect schedule, That's like so great.
It is, because I made a joke out of it. I said, I go get the check, come home. I said, and my husband used to say to me, that's a crazy way of thinking about it. I said, well, it's the truth. He said, I got to work 40 hours a week. Here you are working 3 days a week and coming home with the same amount of money. I said, well,
and you're getting to do what you love to do, so it's not, you're not working. You're just, doing what you love to do.
But I know your songwriting and musical production extends beyond your personal achievements. So, what type of music are you into? I know you do a lot of modern pop music, but what else do you do besides that?
Yeah, I mean, so I've written a lot of different genres. I started I would say what would be classified as contemporary. I've done dance pop sort of music. I wrote a song called Human Nature that is a very dance pop sort of sound. And at the time, I was working with a producer. We were co-producing the song together. He had a contact with somebody at Britney Spears's team. So we pitched the song, and unfortunately it was, they didn't want the song, but I ended up releasing it, and it wound up, all these Britney Spears fan pages wound up reposting it, which was really cool. So that was great. And then, I did a complete 180. I'm a huge fan of jazz music. I grew up listening to Nina Simone, Sarah Vaughan, the great Ella Fitzgerald, all the great jazz singers, and so that was what really was my passion. It's a crazy story. So I was singing for a jazz fusion band, and we would meet every week at this recording studio here in Connecticut. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back and forth. I had just dropped out of college. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I moved into the studio. I moved into the basement, Studio B, and I learned everything that I could about songwriting, producing, working with bands, working with artists. It was the greatest 2 years of my life. And I got to produce and record my own jazz record, which was so exciting. So, that was something that was just, you can't put a price on that. It's just.
Absolutely not. And you're a girl after my own heart, because you've done some things that I do. I do. And actually, I took a plunge on something, which I'll tell you in a minute, most people would not have done. But when you mentioned jazz, you just made my day.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. You talk to me about Ella Fitzgerald, Pearl Bailey. You're going to laugh. Okay. I go back to the old days of the Ed Sullivan shows. Okay. I'm showing my age. But he comes on every Sunday night at 10 o'clock. They do a half-hour show. But they got a new channel out called Catchy Comedy, okay, which I happen to have. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, believe it or not, Ed Sullivan comes on. He's on from 3 to 4. Guess what? I'm up watching that, because last night, okay, was Pearl Bailey, okay, was Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, and they were doing all my favorite jazz tunes, okay? And they had with the Woody Herman Orchestra. I said, that's it. I said, I didn't even go back to sleep after that. I was up dancing around. So
such an energetic, it's so beautiful.
Exactly. And I love, believe it or not, I love singing that type of music, jazz. I also love doing R&B. I had a song in my repertoire called You Go to My Head.
Oh, I love that song.
Oh, my husband used to say to me, isn't that like somebody sitting on a bar stool and crying their eyes out? I said, that's exactly what it is. I said, if you remember, Frank Sinatra did Set 'Em Up Joe. I said, you can get yourself immersed in that kind of a song. I said, and one of the things that what I like about You Go to My Head, you could sing it straight, but then you could sing it with all the bells and the whistles, which tells more of the story. Okay, it's about a woman that, let's face it, okay, they knows that romance doesn't have a ghost of a chance, but it's a crazy romance, but yet you still go to my head.
I love it. You know whose version I love of that song is Diana Krall.
Oh my God, Jesus! You sure you and I are sisters? You were born in 1993, and I was born in 1953. So that 3 is at the end. I'm saying, oh my God, unbelievable! Diana Krall out of Canada. She's one of my favorites.
Me too. I mean, I was so lucky. My parents, you know, I'm Italian, so I was raised with Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, all the,
Exactly.
but they always put on, jazz music. And it was just, our house was always filled with good music. And
exactly. See, you know the great music like I do. And I always tell people when I'm singing R&B and jazz, yes, the opera, you really got to be intense because you're singing those arias and you're telling, it's really a story just put to music, which most songs are. I said, well, when you get into that R&B and jazz, you could really think of something that's happening in your own life.
Yes.
And just you immerse yourself in it. You could sit on a bar stool and just, you really get into it. I said, I feel like sometimes I'm going out of the world because it's just a great way of expressing yourself. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And here's a very funny story. One time I was, they were picking people to perform for the Easter Seals Telethon. And I went down for the audition and I was like one of the first ones. They said, okay, you're in. So it was at, I think it was at one of the colleges in Jersey where they were doing the show they were broadcasting from. And at first they said, you're going to be on at, I forgot what time they had said, like at 12 o'clock at night. And you figure, all right, who's going to see you then? But, these telethons, people would watch them at the night. Then all of a sudden, they switched me till 9 p.m. And I'm saying, that's funny. Why they switching me to 9 p.m.? I said, okay, doesn't matter. Reason being, at 9 o'clock, okay, they were going on the East Coast. Not the East Coast, the West Coast. Okay, now they were going throughout the whole country.
Sure.
So when I got there that night, I don't know if you remember, he was a big disc jockey, especially in New Jersey, New York, cousin Bruce Morrow. And he was there. He was one of the MCs. And they said to me, you're going to open up for Frankie Valli. I said, well, wait a minute.
Gosh.
Hold on. I said, Frankie Valli?
I would have fainted.
No way. They said, well, he's in California, but you're going to be his opening act. I'm shaking my head, and I'm saying to myself,
God, I would have died right there.
Frankie Valli, the Jersey boy. Well, I did. And Frankie Valli was amazed because they were listening to me out there in L.A., and cousin Brucey said, I can't believe this. Do you know Frankie Valli actually said, let her do another song. He said, I don't even want to follow this. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness. What a compliment.
It was a compliment. And I did something that most people wouldn't have done. I'm going back to 1970. My dad had been very, very ill. Okay, we didn't know if he was going to make it. He did, but at that time we didn't. And the stakes were kind of high that night. And I had a choice of whether to go out on stage and perform or go see my dad in the hospital. And the hospital wasn't too far from where I was performing. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to go out on the stage. And I remember my words. I said, I never let my audience suffer. And most people would have said, you're cruel. And you know what? I wasn't cruel because I knew in my mind exactly what I was doing. That Sunday morning, my father came out of his coma. First thing he said to my mother, he said, did she sing? My mother said, yes, she did. That's all I wrote. Because guess what? My father went on to become perfectly normal after that.
Wow.
Most people would have never done that. They would have said, no, get the audience, get another performer.
Right.
But I knew in my mind
Intuitively that, yes.
that my father would not have, he would have said to me, go on, do what you need to do. And I did. And that was the rest was history. And that was probably a big break in probably my younger career, okay? Because when President Nixon came to Hackensack High School, they asked me to sing the national anthem. And I almost, I was like, wait a minute, now we're talking to President of the United States.
Oh my gosh.
I got up the courage to do that, and I had every major movie star you could think in that audience that night, okay? Orson Bean, who was one of the big comedians at that time, he introduces me. I got Robert Mitchum and his wife sitting there, and I was like, okay. But you pull up from the bootstraps and say, okay, I got to do it. This is something. And a lot of people to this day said to me, but you were very young at that time. I said, yeah, well, I said, you know what? I said, I always thought 10 years ahead of myself. So.
People always say, oh, you're an old soul or this. It's just you have it or you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been written up here. I'm looking at all these magazines you've been in. I mean, Eyes on Hollywood magazine, Marxism magazine, okay, Yahoo Finance, Fame magazine. You've been in more magazines than I have.
Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah,
yeah.
I've been very fortunate. It's always such a pleasure when, somebody showcases your music and showcases your work. And I love what I do. I don't do it for the, fame or success. I do it because I love to do it. It's all I know how to do. It's just been it's all I've ever known since I was 4 was playing the piano. I got my grandmother passed away before I was born, and she had left my father her George Stack piano, baby grand piano. And I intuitively at 4 years old just crawled to the piano and wanted to play. And my brother was taking piano lessons, and he had wanted nothing to do with it. And I was so intrigued. And I just felt this spirit come over me that was like, I need to, this is calming. And later on in life, it was like, when you dealt with certain struggles, and, I'm a big advocate for, anti-bullying, because that's something I went through. And I knew how happy I was to come home and have the piano and have music and have that outlet, have great teachers at school to foster that. Because, without our teachers, it's like they're so important. They're so important to learning.
Exactly. They really are. I mean, I've had some tough ones. I've had ones that screamed at me. Okay.
Oh yeah. I went to Catholic school for elementary school, so I dealt with, the nuns.
Oh yeah, I went to Catholic school for 2 years, all right? And they were trying to put me in an all-girls Catholic school, a high school, and I just said to my mother and father, that's not going to work. I said, you know me. I said, that's not going to work. It didn't work for the 2 years I was in. It's definitely not going to work. But, at that, a lot of times I understand what parents are trying to do, because public schools at one time had a reputation of being a little crazy. All right. But I always used to say, look, if you're smart enough and you know right from wrong, and I immersed myself into music, and it was funny because I never ever picked up a cigarette because I knew it would damage my voice. I never smoked. All right. Took a glass of champagne one time. Champagne I like, but I never really, believe it or not, I'm a bad Italian because I don't even like wine.
I must be a bad Italian too. I don't drink either. So I'm like,
No, I don't drink. I don't smoke. And it's like when they took a picture of my lungs 2 years ago when I was in the hospital, they said, you've got the clearest lungs we've ever seen of anybody. But that's because I never smoked. So what's in there? Nothing. All right. And then with all that COVID running around, I had friends of mine that were still smoking. I said, are you crazy? I said, are you
That's
nuts?
so crazy.
I said, bad enough that illness is going to hit your lungs. Smoke,
Or
you got a double whammy going on, you know? And so I always said to myself, if I started smoking and drinking at a young age, where would my voice be? Okay. So I just said, you know what? I don't need that vice. I had a lot of other crazy vices, but I didn't need that one.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's it. And um you have to know right from wrong, and a lot of people in the entertainment industry, they get into, they fall into bad habits, especially at a young age. It's very tempting.
It is. It's listen, and today's world is even worse with the internet and the things that the kids have. We didn't have, I didn't have that back then. And I came back from the old days that on Sunday everything was closed. If you didn't get to the bank Monday through Friday, forget it. So I guess you could, I've come up to modern times, but I still got that old way about me, and the word respect, unfortunately, went out the window these days.
I know. That's something that we were raised with, and
Exactly. We were raised with that. But anyway, a couple of things. You and I have to get together. I'm going to send, Adrian knows that besides doing this, I'm also run the Miss International World Pageant. And we are going to be doing our annual event October 4th through the 8th. Might want to get there on there with us, okay? The cruise lines are always looking for entertainment. But there may be a song or two that you've done that we can collaborate on. So I'll get some information out to Adrian. I think you and I can collaborate on some songs together.
I would love that. Yeah. Now that we have that similar, I know that you love jazz, and
Oh yeah,
I think that's phenomenal. So
it is. It's great. And then so that our viewers, with our closing remarks, if anybody wanted to get into the music industry, what exactly would you tell them?
I would say go for it, go for it, follow your heart. If it's what truly makes you happy, then go for it, because you only have this one life. You got to just go for it. And you can't listen to people that tell you otherwise. You have to, but also too, you have to be prepared to do the work, because it does not happen overnight. When you see people that, you think that are overnight successes, they've been working for 20 years or more. So you got to put the work in, like you mentioned before with the social media, everything seems like it's instantaneous, and you can, in this day and age, build this, fame online, and it's artificial. You have to set the groundwork, do the work, from going to Juilliard, you have to do the groundwork, and you have to, practice but follow your heart.
Exactly. And I always tell anybody, even in the pageant world, I tell them you got to take the good with the bad. There's always going to be disappointments. You win some, you lose some, but that's part of life. But anyway, Zoey, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be the last time that you will be on the show. And you've made my day, because I've been had a little personal problem and been a little down, but this just
I know, and I wanted to say, I'm sending my condolences to you regarding your mother. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And she would have enjoyed this session, believe me. Anything that has to do with music.
Hey, she's listening.
Oh, she's listening. She's up there tap dancing and doing all that crazy stuff that she used to do at home. But anyway, my dear, have a great weekend. And you and I will be in touch. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, hon.
Have a good one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another fabulous guest, okay? Ms. Zoey Tess. She's been absolutely amazing. And as always, we tell everyone to tune in every Thursday evening and every Friday so that you can see all the shows from Make Our World Your Runway. And remember to subscribe to the Global Trade Chamber YouTube channel so that you can see all the shows from Make Our World Your Runway and Success Stories. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another exciting show.